This is Ham College, episode 71 for November 30th, 2020. Ham College is brought to you by Icom, Ham for the holidays. Icom's new ID52A and IC705 give hours of fun and enjoyment working your favorite bands this holiday season. And by hamstudy.org, a great way to study for your next license exam. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Ham College. I'm Professor Thomas.
And I'm Dean Martin.
It still hasn't got old, has it?
I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny, though.
Good point. Good point. Well, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. It was fantastic. Kind of small, and just us and us and one family member. But it was great. It was enjoyable. I didn't have to work, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we had a pretty good one here as well. We didn't go anywhere. We just stayed at home and didn't really have any guests. But, you know, that's just the way it was this year. Couldn't well, you know how it is.
Yep. Yeah, maybe next year will be different. I kind of missed having the bigger family get-together. But anyway, it'll pass soon enough.
Last time we talked all about amateur television, slow scan television, fast scan television, and the common practices and, you know, what gear you might use. That has got me kind of interested in it. I would like to do something. Nobody here is doing anything with that. Maybe one day.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
And this month, talk about operating methods, contests
and DX operating, remote operation techniques, QSLing, RF network connected systems, and one that cut off on my printout.
Oh, Cabrillo Format didn't print then.
That's what, it was off the edge of the cell.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that was a convenient thing to happen there.
It was convenient for you.
Yeah.
Maybe did I get a buzzer for that?
No, it wasn't. Well, it was a question, but it wasn't multiple choice. So we'll give you that. You got majority. It was an essay type thing, you know. So anytime we're doing a show live, we've got something else going on at the same time, especially with Ham College.
We do. We got the chat room going. And you can get to the chat room at AmateurLogic.TV /chat. And it's kind of a fun addition if you're watching the live stream. People trying to answer the questions in there in real time, and it's just a lot of fun. What I always say is if you're watching a live stream and you're not in the chat room, you're missing half the fun. But what's the rest of it, George?
And the follow-up question is, but which half?
Which half?
And only you know for sure. So,
yeah.
Now that
it may still be a little fuzzy.
It could be. Well, now that we've got that out of the way, I guess we should get on into the questions for tonight. There's a coin toss. Who won?
I got heads.
Oh, I got tails, and it is on tails.
Okay.
So I'll ask you the first question here.
Okay.
What indicator is required to be used by U.S. licensed operators when operating a station via remote control and the remote transmitter is located in the U.S.? Is it A, / followed by the USPS two-letter abbreviation for the state in which the remote station is located?
B, /R pound, where pound is the district of the remote station.
C, slash followed by the ARRL section of the remote station.
Or D, no additional indicator is required. Okay, so what indicator is required for the U.S. to be used by U.S. licensed operators from operating a remote station? Via remote, and the transmitter is in the U.S. as well. Okay. Stroke followed by. I don't think there's anything required for that. In fact, I'm sure of that. I think the answer is D. No additional indicators required.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, or else.
And I don't really know how to reason those out, but I'm sure that's the right answer.
Yeah. If it's not, we've probably been breaking the law for a number of years here.
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Well, let's see. That's what everybody's saying in the almost everybody in the chat room. You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that just never works anymore.
It's kind of tough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hit me with one.
Okay. How about this one? Which of the following best describes the term self-spotting in connection with HF contest operating? A, the often prohibited practice of posting one's own call sign and frequency on a spotting network.
B, the acceptable practice of manually posting the call signs of stations on a spotting network.
C, a manual technique for rapidly zero beating or tuning to a station's frequency before calling that station.
D, an automatic method for rapidly zero beating or tuning to a station's frequency before calling that station. That's the question again. Which of the following best describes the term self-spotting in connection with HF contest operations? It doesn't have anything to do with zero beating a frequency. It's got to be either A or B. Let's see. Self-spotting. I'm going to say it's A. I'm pretty sure that's right. The often prohibited practice of posting one's own call sign and frequency on a spotting network. And they're talking like a DX cluster or something like that. Maybe maybe a packet network or, wherever people are posting DX stations that they've received. Now, the FCC is not going to knock on your door if you do this, but everybody's going to turn their nose up at you if you're spotting yourself in there.
Kind of defeats the purpose of being able to check propagation, stuff like that, so you can go in there and look at the call signs, where they come from, and kind of get a sense of how the propagation is. If you go posting your own call sign location on there, kind of defeats the whole thing.
Okay, and everybody in the chat room gets a gold star beside their name on that one.
Awesome. Here, you gonna go for it one more time?
From which of the following bands is amateur radio contesting generally excluded? Is it A, 30 meters?
B, 6 meters.
C, 2 meters.
Or D, 33 centimeters. Well, I know it's not B or C. There's plenty of contesting on there. 33 centimeters. I think it's going to be A, 30 meters.
Okay.
It's going to be 30 meters. I'm trying to remember that band chart. I've actually got it right here. I just don't memorize it, but I know there was some weird stuff on 30 meters. I don't ever use 30 meters, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the right answer.
That's what most people are saying in the chat room. I'll agree with you. And it is 30 meters. What frequency is 30 meters? I believe that's, isn't that like around 10 megahertz?
It's 10 megahertz. Which of the following frequencies are sometimes used for amateur radio mesh networks? A, HF frequencies where digital communications are permitted.
B, frequencies shared with various unlicensed wireless data services.
C, cable TV channels 41 through 43.
Or D, the 60-meter band channels centered on 5373. Which of the following frequencies are sometimes used for amateur radio mesh networks? I think this is a fairly easy one. We know it's not HF frequencies at all because we just don't have that wide of channels there to really send very fast data. So it would make a very good mesh network. Let's see, the 60-meter band channels centered on 5373. No, 60 meters is channelized, and we don't have many channels there, and they're shared with other services. So there's not enough bandwidth there for us to do that either. Cable TV channels 41 through 43. That is UHF, and yeah, it's not that one either. It's frequencies shared with various unlicensed wireless data services. That's my answer.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's what they're all saying over in the chat room. And that is correct. We share, some of our allocations fall into the same frequencies as Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Wi-Fi is unlicensed. So it's kind of convenient that we can take advantage of that gear to build a mesh network with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Have you ever played around with that?
I never have. Have you?
No, I had an old router, and I was going to load the software on there, but mine was it was an old Linksys WRT54G. Remember those, the blue and black one?
Yeah.
And I got mine. I think I bought it at Walmart because my other one died, and that's all I could get. And they have I think it was called a neutered version, which had just a very limited amount of memory in it, and it wouldn't install the firmware. So I didn't buy another one just to do that.
I've got one that wasn't a neutered version. I think I still have it. I'd have to go look out in the storeroom and see. But yeah, I had one of those. I never did that though. If you're not close enough to someone else who has one, it's going to kind of like be a private mesh. There won't really be anybody there but you. It's 2.4 doesn't go very far.
Yeah, I always thought if we had a better line of sight, it would be kind of cool to put together between us.
It would.
Sharing files and so forth. But of course, we got fast enough internet connections now, but back in the day, it would have been kind of nice.
Oh, yeah. What is the function of a DX QSL manager? Is it A, to allocate frequencies for D expeditions?
B, to handle the receiving and sending of confirmation cards for a DX station.
C, to run a net to allow many stations to contact a rare DX station.
Or D, to relay calls to and from a DX station. A DX QSL manager. So that's for QSL cards like these. My last one I got.
Oh.
Anyway, pretty sure it's to manage those. So A would not be right to allocate frequencies. I think it's going to be B, to handle receiving and sending of confirmation cards for a DX station. But C, to run the net No. And D wouldn't be right either. It's got to be B to handle the receiving and sending of confirmation cards for a DX station.
I'm going to agree with you. That makes good sense, and everybody in the chat room thinks so. Okay. Next one here.
During a VHF UHF contest, in which band segment would you expect to find the highest level of single sideband or CW activity? A, at the top of each band, usually in a segment reserved for contests.
B, in the middle of each band, usually on the national calling frequency.
C, in the weak signal segment part of the band, with most of the activity near the calling frequency.
Or D, in the middle of the band, usually 25 kilohertz above the national calling frequency. During a VHF UHF contest, in which band segment would you expect to find the highest level of SSB and CW activity? At the top of each band. That's not it. The top of the band is not normally used in contesting. That's down further in the band. Generally, always within the general portion of the band. VHF, UHF, that would be the technician portion too. Let's see. B, in the middle of each band, usually on the national calling frequency. Everybody can't talk on the same frequency, so yeah, I don't think that's it. D, in the middle of the band, usually 25 kilohertz above the national calling frequency. That would still only be like one channel there, or one frequency, if you went 25 kilohertz above the national calling frequency. But, a lot of people use the calling frequency, so I would think in a contest, the answer is going to be C, in the weak signal segment of the band, with most of the activity near the calling frequency. Because, DX contesting on VHF and UHF is going to be weak signals for the most part, you would think. And if you did it near the calling frequency, other people might just happen to be listening around there. So that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
And most people in the chat room are saying that. Well, let's see. And it is. So,
interesting.
Lucked out on that one.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure about that one, to be honest with you. What you said makes sense.
We'll take a quick break. Ham for the holidays. Icom's newest handheld amateur radio is the ID52A. Larger radio, larger color display, and louder audio. This VHF-UHF digital transceiver is much more than a replacement for the ID51A. The color display is 2.3 inches for exceptional viewability, and the audio is 80% louder. This multifunction dual-band D-Star transceiver supports DR mode for easy access to local repeaters based on internal GPS information, as well as terminal and access point modes. The ID52A also has Bluetooth for audio and data control. The IC705 is the perfect sidekick for hams who like to enjoy what both the great indoors and outdoors have to offer. It's the perfect QRP companion, base station features and functionalities at the tips of your fingers in a portable package covering HF, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in just over 2 pounds with RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall, 5 watts with the BP272, 10 watts with 13.8 volt DC external, single sideband, CW, AM, FM, as well as full D-Star functions. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on Icom radios. Really, if you weren't an LSU fan and you didn't have one of their shirts, like you, and you didn't have that shirt you were wearing right now, but you were going to grab something handy.
Here, I put myself in that position. I've got a hat and a shirt, so I one-upped you a little bit.
Oh, wow. How could I get one of those if I wasn't a professor?
Well, it's pretty easy, really. All you got to do is send an email to hamcollege@AmateurLogic.TV. You don't have to be a ham. All you need is a name and an email address. And if you want to put a note in there, that's fine. We always like to read them, but send your name to hamcollege@AmateurLogic.TV, and you'll be put in the drawing each month. So if you don't win this month, be sure to send it in for the next month, because the queue gets cleared out after each drawing. Start over from scratch again. But this is a nice shirt, good heavy duty shirt, and you'll look just as good leaving the Ham Fest as you did when you got there.
How can you argue with that? The price is right too. The price is right too. Cheap old man approved.
Yeah, no doubt.
So get your cards and letters in, or emails in today. Our winner is Clay N5OF from Mesquite, Texas. And
congratulations, Clay.
He said, enjoying the show. Congrats, Clay. And we're enjoying the show too.
Yep, you'll be looking sharp at the next Ham Fest.
We will, whenever Hamfest are back.
True.
They'll be back.
I expect it won't be too much longer, hopefully.
Yeah, they'll be back sometime in 2021. I feel for certain. Okay, let's see. Who asked the last one? I don't think you asked me the last one, so I'll ask you this one. What is the Cabrillo format? Is it A, a standard for submission of electronic contest logs?
B, a method of exchanging information during a contest QSO.
C, the most common set of contest rules.
Or D, the rules of order for meetings between contest sponsors. I'm going to go ahead and scratch off D right now, because that is not it. C, the most common set of contest rules. No, it's not contest rules either. And it's not a QSO exchange for a contest. It's a standard for submission of electronic contest logs. I remember seeing that in some of the logging software to export to that format. So yeah, that's going to be a standard for submission of electronic contest logs.
That's what most of them are saying in the chat room there, and that is correct. And Cabrillo format is one that ARRL uses. So, your logging software is going to want to export that for sure, so that you can upload those to ARRL and don't have to hand submit a log of some type.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which of the following contacts may be confirmed through the U.S. QSL Bureau system? A, special event contacts between stations in the U.S.
B, contacts between a U.S. station and a non-U.S. station.
C, repeater contacts between U.S. club members.
Or D, contacts using tactical call signs. Which of the following contacts may be confirmed through the U.S. QSL Bureau system? D, contacts using tactical call signs. No, I don't think so. C, repeater contacts between U.S. club members. Why would you want... Well, I guess some people maybe do send some QSL cards to contacts on repeaters, but I would think that's pretty rare. A,
Yeah, I would think so.
special event contacts between stations in the U.S. and no, and you really wouldn't need that so much as you would for B, contacts between a U.S. station and a non-U.S. station. I'm going to say that's the answer. I believe most people got that one correct. So let's see. Although there was a little split on that one.
Mostly.
Contacts between a U.S. station and a non-U.S. station. If you make a lot of DX contacts to other countries, and those countries or the people in those countries send you a QSL card, or you want to send some to them, it's very expensive to do foreign mail to send cards, especially, if you got 50 of them or so that you've gathered up and you want to send off.
Right.
We've got a QSL bureau system that handles that. They will contact you if there's a lot of cards that have been sent in from some foreign country. They'll group them all together, the Bureau will. In the U.S. here, they'll take all the cards they've collected and send like a batch of cards to each country ever so often. And you don't pay the huge fees for doing that. It's a much smaller fee, and the same thing for receiving cards. They'll receive cards that are coming to you for contacts that you have made to foreign stations, but these stations will send them to the QSL Bureau here in the U.S., and then those bureaus are responsible for sending them to you, and they may ask a small fee, just for you to donate to kind of help support that, because it does cost them a little bit to do it and to send cards back and forth. But that's essentially what a QSL Bureau is.
Yeah, it's a good service.
Yeah, and there's more than one in the U.S. I think usually it's by zones. They kind of have them separated out. But okay, next one for you. What type of equipment is commonly used to implement an amateur radio mesh network? A 2-meter VHF transceiver with a 1200 baud modem.
B, an optical cable connection between the USB ports of two separate computers.
C, a wireless router running custom firmware.
Or D, a 440 megahertz transceiver with a 9600 baud modem. Okay, what type of equipment is commonly used to implement an amateur radio mesh network? Well, earlier we said that the mesh network was not operating on some of these frequencies that are listed on here, that it was in the 2.4 gigahertz stuff that we have access to the hardware, right? I know the answer to this anyway, but the other question sort of made it a little easier, if you didn't. So it's not going to be 440 megahertz transceiver. It's not going to be 2 meters. And it's not an optical cable connection between two ports of USB ports, because that wouldn't be much of a mesh network. Anyway, it's going to be C, a wireless router running custom firmware.
That's what everybody's saying over in the chat room, and even email, as cheap as he is. He's saying C is in cheap. I'll agree with you.
Because you remember I said I was going to try to set up a note on that, and my old neutered WRT54G Linksys router wouldn't run it.
2-meter VHF transceiver with a 1200 baud modem. You could swing some bits with something like that.
Oh, yeah. We have sent a lot of bits on 1200 baud.
Well, we have.
2 meters in the past.
But I sent more on with 2400 because that was my first TNC, was the MFJ that had would do 12 or 2400.
Oh, there you go.
I wish I had a 9600, but back in the day when I was doing packet, you would have had to modify your radio really to take advantage of that.
Why might a DX station state that they're listening on another frequency? A, because the DX station may be transmitting on a frequency that is prohibited to some responding stations.
B, to separate the calling stations from the DX stations.
C, to improve operating efficiency by reducing interference.
Or D, all of these choices are correct. I'm sure glad that D choice is in there, because otherwise it would have been hard for me to pick out an answer on this one, because all of them make sense. A, because a DX station may be transmitted on a frequency that is prohibited to some responding stations. That's true, and different countries, they have different band plans there. The portions of the band here that we may only be allowed to operate CW on, they may have single sideband permissions there. Mm-hmm. I've heard that quite a bit before, and just different band plans between the different countries around the world, particularly different zones. And so, if they were transmitting down where they were licensed, we couldn't. But they could listen to a frequency that we can transmit on, because you can listen to any frequency. And that way, that makes that a good way to do it. B, to separate the calling stations from the DX stations. Well, it would be a little easier if you got 100 people there trying to contact the same DX station. If you were hearing the DX station on one frequency and everybody responded on another by using, say, split in their radio, it would make it easier, because if other people were talking at the same time as a DX station, you may not be able to hear that station. C, to improve operating efficiency by reducing interference. Same thing as B. I mean, basically the same reason. So, D, all of these choices are correct. What do you think, Dino?
I think you're spot on.
Everybody else in the chat
Not
room.
self-spotting.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep, not self-spotting. Okay. Okay. Well, how should you generally identify your station when attempting to contact a DX station during a contest or in a pileup? A, send your full call sign once or twice.
B, send only the last two letters of your call sign until you make contact.
C, send your full call sign and grid square.
Or D, send the call sign of the DX station 3 times, the words, "this is," then your call sign 3 times.
Boy, some of these, you're going to make a lot of friends.
Yeah, and don't just send your last two letters. It's not B. And the grid square might be part of the exchange, but that's not how you try to make a contact, to initiate the contact. Send the call sign of the DX station 3 times? No, that's not right either. It's going to be A. Send your full call sign once or twice.
Yep.
And
I'm going to agree with you. That makes sense to me.
If they hear you, they'll come back to you.
Yeah. That's what they're basically saying over in the chat room. That's all. I mean, really, if you get on there and you're saying their call sign 3 times and then this is and your call sign 3 times, look how many people you're going to be jamming at the same time.
Yeah.
So, for efficiency, it's A there.
Yeah, you get a whole call sign, an entire call sign. So just using the last 2 letters of it's probably not the recommended method either.
Yeah, true. I would agree with that. But you do hear some of that. Some people occasionally will just do the last 2 or 3 letters of their call sign. that's not proper practice. So,
What techniques do individual nodes use to form a mesh network? A. Forward error correction and Viterbi codes. Somebody's going to correct me on that. I'm sure I butchered that.
that's as close as I would have got. B. Acting as store and forward digitpeaters.
C. Discovery and link establishment protocols.
Or D. Custom code plugs for the local trunking system. What techniques do individual nodes use to form a mesh network? It's not D, custom code plugs for the local trunking system. Yeah, they probably wouldn't want you using a trunking system for mesh networking. A, forward error correction and whatever kind of codes you said there. No, because then you're sending a lot of redundant data and you're taking up extra bandwidth doing that. And on a mesh network, you're going to get an acknowledgement back that your transmission was received. And if it wasn't, they'll send you back a NAC and you'll know, well, we need to send that again. B, acting as a store and forward digitpeaters. Now, I mean, we do use digitpeaters, and that's a good way to transfer data over a large area because one station can pick it up, repeat it back to the other stations out there that couldn't hear your signal, and just goes on where you can cross the country or, big networks like that. But that's not what we use for mesh networking, although it is a good practice. But what you need for mesh networking, because people are just going to be turning on these nodes on their Wi-Fi router, with the correct firmware. So you need a way to discover and establish links between those so that you don't have to know that there is this station that's out here that you need to connect to. You'll just see when he comes online, and it'll automatically establish the connections among the various stations there. That's my answer. I'm going to say it's C.
That's your answer, and you're sticking to it?
I'm sticking to it, and I'm in good company because that's what I'm seeing over there in the chat room.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. It makes sense.
It does.
It's really kind of interesting. It's interesting technology. I'm surprised it's not any. Actually, I think in some parts of the country it is fairly popular.
Yeah.
But it just never really took off here. I know somebody that was trying to set it up. But anyway, that was back actually when I was trying to play around with it with my old router.
Yeah. I think the problem around here is, we're spread out more than, say, big city or some area. And so we don't have the individual nodes close enough together to be, able to form a network because, 2.4 gigs, you're going to have some height and, possibly even have the gear on the tower or an antenna, but you're going to lose so much in that feed line if you do that.
Right.
You just got to have enough nodes close enough together to pull that off. We don't here. I think maybe Email and them are doing that down around Slidell. I don't know. We'll have to get him to tell us.
You would have to be very close because think about, like, if you have your Wi-Fi there at your home QTH and you go out with your tablet or your phone or something hooked to the Wi-Fi, how far you can get. You don't get very far.
Oh, yeah.
Before you lose it. A lot of them do good to get across the yard.
Yeah. And if you look at, your phone or whatever, you're wanting to connect to a Wi-Fi signal, you'll get a list and you'll probably see your neighbors in there. Of course, they're going to be, these days, they're going to have a secure accounts, so you're not going to be able to really siphon off Wi-Fi from them like you could in the old days when, people weren't really using passwords or encryption.
In the old Cantana days?
In the old Cantana days, because I actually did that as a backup. The Cantana was good for shooting down the end of the street to the neighbors, if your broadband was down. But, I can see, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 different Wi-Fi networks, but that doesn't mean I could connect to that many. Most of them, the signal's probably going to be so weak that it would be useless even if I could connect to them.
Yeah, that's how it is here. I can see about 8 of them here.
Yeah.
But the signal's very weak on them.
Now, I am thinking that maybe if you, what are those things? I think email's got one, the Ubiquity stuff, Those are dishes, and, it's kind of like the active antenna I built. All the transmitter and receiver are right there at the antenna. And you mount those on your tower, and they're not super expensive. I don't know if anybody has hacked the firmware for them, or we could use them for this, but, that seemed like, something like that might, well, it would definitely increase the range if the gear will do it.
Oh, yeah. If you don't know what a Cantana is, go look at episode 3 of AmateurLogic.TV.
Oh, is that
That's
one it was?
That's the Cantana episode.
Wow. I didn't remember which one it was, but yeah, it was one of the very early ones there. So.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
That was good times. I think, and it may still be, we had more views of that than anything else. Because at the time, Cantanas were a really hot thing, and there weren't very many podcasts around.
Yeah. You remember people used to go out and do, I think it was called war driving or something, looking for open hot spots.
Yep.
Using the antenna or something like that in a laptop.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it when we come back. We'll pick up with the topic of war driving there, because I had an idea years ago, but I should have done it, but I never did. Anyway, we'll be right back. We've got a little time to go. We're through with the questions for tonight, but we'll come back and visit with you here in just a moment. So don't go away. Are you new to the ham world, or an existing amateur operator who wants to take your license to the next level? Study for your radio license exam at hamstudy.org. Hamstudy.org is a free online learning tool powered by Icom. It was created by Richard Bateman, KD7BBC, Michael Stuffelbein, KV9G, and Rich Porter, KK6GKE, and it uses a modern web design to enhance the experience of studying for your technician, general, and amateur extra exams. Since 2013, hamstudy.org has helped new and existing hams to familiarize themselves with the question pools, use stats-based flashcards to focus on material they need to learn, and take practice exams to gauge progress. Visit hamstudy.org on your desktop computer or mobile device. Register for a free account at hamstudy.org to access personalized study history and other site features. Prepare for an exam in an intuitive and comprehensive manner. Check out hamstudy.org, powered by Icom, for free learning tools. Good luck on your next exam. And that is a great resource for your ham radio studies there. They've really set up a nice platform there where you can go on and study at your own pace and keep track of how you're doing and get suggestions on where you need help, areas that you might want to do a little extra study on. So,
yeah, absolutely. Go check it out.
Yeah, hamstudy.org. Well, where we left off here, and we'll get back to this in a second, but because of the way that the steel frames are lined up in tonight's show, and because you could lose that shirt at any time. If you need another shirt.
I'm really not a gambling man.
Well, if you found yourself in that predicament, or if you just wanted to look really sharp at the next Hamfest,
There you go.
there's a place that you could do that.
AmateurLogic.Spreadshirt.com. We've got Amateur Logic and Ham College swag in there. T-shirts, regular shirts, ball caps, cups, mugs, backpacks, all kinds of things. AmateurLogic.Spreadshirt.com.
Back to the topic of war driving there. Yeah, we used to use software called NetStumbler that you'd run on your laptop and turn on your Wi-Fi, and you'd see all the signals of various SSIDs on there and their strength and such as that, and you could try connecting to different folks. Used to be a really big thing. Not so much anymore, but I had the idea because also around that time period, most radios in your cars, some older vehicles, they wouldn't have a CD player in them, and CDs were popular then. Certainly wouldn't have an MP3 player in there or anything like that. And we'd use FM modulators. You could plug that into a portable CD player or to your iPod or whatever you had, and broadcast it out at low power on an FM signal. And you could pick that up and tune it in on your car radio. So it just gave, and I still have some of those devices, just gave you a good way to, get some other audio into your car stereo system. Now, most vehicles have an auxiliary input or something of that nature, so the modulators aren't needed as much. But I was thinking it'd be cool to go up, say, to a busy intersection or a stoplight or something, and sit there and try to find the different modulators as people drove by and see what they were listening to.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Back in the day, you might have found a few. Today, I don't know. Probably not so much.
Yeah, probably they use what I use. I don't have Bluetooth built into my vehicle. It's an older truck, and still got low miles on it and it's paid for, so I'm not upgrading. But anyway, I have a little Bluetooth receiver that I put in that I can pair to my phone and play music through that. But the FM modulator days, I think those are pretty much gone now.
Yeah. My pickup has a Bluetooth on the stereo system there, but I don't use it because anytime I get a phone call, it interrupts whatever I'm listening to on the radio. And it just, I don't know, it just seemed like such a big hassle that I eventually quit using it. But I didn't need it really that much anyway because my stereo system had enough on it. But in my Explorer, no, it's an older vehicle. It doesn't have Bluetooth, but it does have an auxiliary jack on it. And it never worked right, man. I could plug in my phone to it and play some audio, and it only come out of one speaker. And it just didn't sound right. And after I had that vehicle for 2 or 3 years, I finally decided one day, I'm going to figure this out. And I ripped the radio and all out of the dashboard and took it apart and actually traced out the multi-pin connector there to see where all the wires were going. And I found what looked to me like it was going to be the auxiliary input to the radio. And then I ohmed out the wiring harness in the vehicle, and it wasn't the same. Something, I don't know if it was just mine or if maybe it was a flaw in the wiring diagrams or the wiring harnesses on a 2013 Ford Explorer, but I ended up going in there and modifying the wiring harness to correct it, and it works fine now. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Talk about a man on a mission, man. I spent a lot of time hunting that down.
Oh, that's dedication right there.
It is, you know. If you got two ears and you like listening to music, you probably want to use both of them.
Yeah, it works better like that.
I think so.
I can get the Bluetooth module and plug into my truck, but it's got a place for it, but it didn't come installed, and it's like $400 and something.
Oh,
It's not really worth it.
no, it's not. I've got one of those little receivers like you talked about, but I hadn't really used it because it takes like AAA batteries.
Oh, mine's got a lithium battery. You can plug it up and charge it.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it doesn't sound great though.
No, mine doesn't either. And you know, Bluetooth that's one of those things. If they're using aptX codec in it, you know, that can sound pretty good. And you know all about that because we did it years ago. But if some of the other stuff, though, you know, low bit rate, it's not very good. Oh, Craig says he was a war dollar long before there were war drivers. Yeah? You remember war dollars?
Yeah. Yep. Never did it, but I do remember that.
I didn't either. You know, people would program up their, I don't know, I assume you could download software or write your own to just sit there and use your modem and just dial random numbers or numbers in a sequence.
Do you find an open modem line?
Yep. And then see if you could connect to it. Yeah, I stayed away from the whole hacker thing. Is pretty much that. You know, I didn't get too involved in that, but
it's fascinating to me, but I just never wanted to do that.
Yeah,
it's fascinating that the people that can.
Yeah,
but I'm way too paranoid to try to do something like that. I have no desire to do.
Yeah, I bet today you could start war dialing, man, and it might take you a week or so before you ever run across your first modem.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, there's not hardly
probably not too many of them left.
No.
I've still got a U.S. Robotics Sportster 56K, I think.
Yeah.
I've still got one.
Yeah.
I don't have a computer with a serial port to plug it up to.
I've got one right here. This
Okay.
56K.
Mine's the old white one.
Yeah. I have a white one of my own. This one actually goes to one of my transmitter sites. And it may be bad. I brought it here to test it, but I haven't checked it out yet. I can't get it to work at the site, though. It never answers, so it probably took a lightning strike.
Maybe somebody war dialed into it.
Could be. But yeah.
Modems were cool things, man. I remember used to like to play around with the AT commands on them.
Oh yeah. I went from my first modem was a 300 baud, and then I joined CompuServe, and it didn't take me long to justify going to a 1200 baud. The expense. Because, you know, I was saving 4 times the money on connections.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the 2400. Wow. And from there, it just went crazy, man.
I remember when everybody had 300s, and a buddy of mine, he lived on one street over from where you live. He called me. He's like, Tommy, I just got a 1200 baud internal modem card. You have got to come see it. And so I just stopped everything and drove over there and said to see how it did. And I had modem envy after that.
Oh yeah. Back in the late 70s when the TRS 80s came out, I was working at a Radio Shack dealer store, and Jim Remember Jim, the Torch?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
One of the original hosts of AmateurLogic. Jim was working there at the same time, and we had that TRS-80 back there, and we played with it some. We didn't do a whole lot with it. We didn't have a modem or anything. And then we kind of, he went one way and I went another, and we ended up in different cities. And just a few years later, I went by to visit with him, and he had a TI-99.
Oh.
You know, the little Texas Instrument computers. And I had,
Yeah.
you know, I had played with the Trash 80, and I knew how addictive something like that could be, so I never got into it. Plus, I didn't have $1,000 spent on a computer then. But he had the TI-99, and he was showing me how cool it was, and of course plugged into a TV set for a monitor. And he had, and I noticed Marty mentioned it there, it made me think of it, he had the 300 baud acoustic modem where, you know, you'd pick up your phone and you'd dial and you'd plug it down in
the acoustic coupler.
Yeah, and the acoustic coupler, and and he connected to some bulletin boards. Of course, where he lived in, they were all long distance. And long distance wasn't very cheap back in those days. But anyway, it kind of whet my appetite to get into computers. Then I managed to stall for another couple of years or so, but eventually I had to give in.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm sure you're glad you did. It's fun stuff.
Oh yeah. I don't know when
all
we
that
met.
stuff. I make my living off of that, playing around with that stuff now.
Well,
That's kind of got me started.
I have for a lot of years, and it's instrumental in my jobs. I said plural. I have more than one. But yeah, for a lot of years that was, you know, my only gig. And I'm really glad that finally bit the bullet and did it. And when we met, it was online.
Yeah, bulletin board system.
Yep. I don't know.
Yeah, sure was.
I don't know if we had, I'm guessing we probably had 2400 baud modems then. I don't remember.
Maybe. It would probably been around the time when I switched from 24 to 9600 baud, maybe. So I can't remember for sure which one I had at the time.
Yeah.
But, it was right through that time when the 96s were coming out.
Well, if you had a 96, I'm sure I got one just like that, because we had a thing going for several years where one of us would buy something, then the other one could justify it and would buy one too.
Oh yeah, it's a little minor arm twisting.
Yep, it wasn't very hard to do, you know.
No, it still isn't.
No, it's not. Well, there's a lot of folks use, I'm looking in here, 9600 bauds. 14.4, yeah, I had that, and the 28.8, John. Chip posted a link in there to modern war dialing. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Did anyone else use ISDN for data? I didn't, Marty, but trying to think of who did.
I think Jimmy had that at work.
I think you're right.
I never had it. I wanted it. But it was a little pricey for me to have at home at the time.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I remember, well, when DSL was first getting around, and you and I got Velocity.
Velocity.
Yeah.
Velocity was awesome back when it was still here.
Oh yeah.
It was like all ports were wide open, man. Nobody stopped you from doing anything.
Yep. And it was much, much faster than a 56K modem.
Oh yeah.
But now compared to, you know, gig speed internet out there, it was like a 300 baud modem or worse, relatively speaking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but back in the day, it was bleeding edge stuff.
And Marty says he had,
Paid really good money for that back then too, which was a lot of money for that time.
yeah. Marty says he had 2 circuits with 4 bonded data channels. 256K, wow. He was smoking, man. He was the man.
Yeah, he still is.
Nigel says he did get a Radio Shack analog multimeter. It cost more than the new price from eBay UK. Yeah, I had a few Radio Shack analog multimeters over the years. Spike says local billboards went with cell phone numbers routed to a landline. I hadn't thought about that, but yes, you could.
Craig said he can't remember last week, but he can remember his CompuServe ID from the 80s.
I could probably almost recall mine. I know it started with a 8-1, I'm pretty sure. Oh, it sounded like John had the first modem, same as me, the Commodore 1660 300 baud.
Yeah. My first one was a Radio Shack 300 baud for the Tandy color computer, the Coco 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a 300 baud. It didn't have an acoustic coupler. You plugged in the line, and you had to pick up the phone, dial the phone, and then once you heard the modem tone, then you hit the red button on the thing. It didn't have any way to dial it.
Wow.
It was a manual, basically a manual modem. It worked, but it was a kind of a pain. I didn't use that one for very long. I'm sure you can understand why.
Oh, yeah. I know. I feel your pain. Andy says he had a Zoom 6-line 56K for BBS. Ran for a few years around 1993.
Yeah, I ran BBS for a little while. I ran one off that Tandy color computer.
Yeah. Jocelyn says kids don't understand how you could use a computer without the internet. Well, we didn't know. We didn't know about the internet.
Yeah, it was all bleeding edge back then.
Yep. Oh, copy
BBS.
parties. Yeah, we better not talk about copy parties. But, yeah, that's where you got together with some of your buddies and you all brought your computers and a box of floppies.
Disks.
Yep. You go buy those verbatims because you get them cheap. They're cheapest disc out there. And you just fill them up. Oh, Chip had a TRS 100. Wow. And also a 120. Still have them. They both work. Okay, Chip, you're going to have to do a little show and tell on that. I guess we ought to get out of here for tonight. We've run over a little, but it was a lot of fun. We'll have to revisit these subjects again.
Yeah, it's an interesting stroll down memory lane.
Yeah.
To give me a chance to get out my my Tandy pocket computer.
Oh, man, I wish I still had mine. I gave mine to my son, and so, you know, there's no telling where it ended up, but I know he doesn't have it.
I think this is a PC4.
Well,
I have to
Nigel,
put glasses on to see it now. I didn't want to buy it.
well, Nigel's headed up the wooden hill, so I guess that's our
73,
cue.
Nigel.
Yep. So thanks for joining us on Ham College this week. Do your studying. There's going to be a test.
You know what? It was just Thanksgiving. The next time we have a Ham College, it'll be Christmas will be past. So everybody have a safe and happy Christmas holiday. And hope you had a great Thanksgiving as well. The ones that are over here celebrating it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, over the holidays, you might be looking for some other activities. We'll be back around the 15th with the next Amateur Logic and around the end of the year with the next Ham College. But On Tuesday nights, you might find this entertaining. Tell us about that, Tommy.
Yeah, we've got the Amateur Logic Soundcheck net. This past Tuesday, it was actually the Turkey Drop net. But anyway, they're every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Central Time or 0200 UTC, same time this live stream usually starts. It's really well connected. We're using Jeff K8JTK, Brad N8PC, their connected systems, their hubs, and we've got pretty much every mode you can think about connected together. It's a lot of fun. There's usually a question you can, answer if you want to, but it's not required. And we take check-ins. Multiple check-ins are encouraged. So if you use D-Star and DMR and Fusion or whatever, if you want to check in 3 times and get on the log 3 times, then that's encouraged. It's just a lot of fun. It's a good way to spend some time, and I think you'll enjoy it. So come check it out.
Also, throughout the month, if you want to check in and see what's going on or find out when the next episode will be streamed live, you can do that by going to the Ham College Society there. That's facebook.com/group/Ham College. Or you can follow us around.
Twitter, at Ham College. We also have at Amateur Logic.
Yep. Or
and go for it.
Groups.io/G/AmateurLogic. That's another option you may want there if you're avoiding the whole Twitter and Facebook thing. That's not a bad one. You won't get many emails on that one. Just a few important ones, to let you know when the next show will be.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Groups.io, it's almost like a mailing list. So it's not something that you have to go check in. You don't see ads or anything like that, and we don't send a lot of messages out. Just occasion, mostly the notices for the shows and the nets.
Mm-hmm. So good option if you don't really do the social media thing. Also, you can get the show notes, find out what we talked about in each episode. AmateurLogic.TV/wiki. Notes for Amateur Logic and Ham College, both there.
Yep.
So with that, I think it's a wrap. And I appreciate everyone with us. And, Thanksgiving weekend here in the U.S. Good times, although it is 2020.
Yep. I think I'm going to go hit the Thanksgiving leftovers when this is finished.
Turkey. Okay. All right. 7-3, everyone.
7-3, everybody.
What did we talk about on the last episode? Do you recall?
I seem to remember that we talked about contest and DX operating, remote operating techniques, something format because it got cut off on my paper, and QSLing and RF network connected systems. Best I can recall.
We weren't doing the same show then. I was at a different show last time. I thought we talked about television practices.
Oh, we sure did.
What would you grab?
Well, let me put myself in that position.
Okay.
Here, I grabbed something. I even got a hat to go with it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, except I hit my microphone.
C, an optical router running custom firmware.
You want to read that again? You said an optical router.
Yeah, I'm wondering how I even got that myself.
I'd like to see that
Yeah.
next time I come over there. Can I see those?
Sure. If I can find one, you can see it.